Welcome, teacher friend. I'm Lori.
And I'm Melissa.
We are two literacy educators in Baltimore. We want the best for all kids, and we know you do too.
Our district recently adopted a new literacy curriculum, which meant a lot of change for everyone. Lori and I can't wait to keep learning about literacy with you today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Melissa and Lori Love Literacy Podcast. I can't wait for today's episode because we are talking with two fantastic teachers from Skaneateles. So, Melissa, I think we should start this episode off with a spelling bee. Can you spell Skaneateles, please?
Why would you do that to me? I can because I have it up in front of me.
I know.
But otherwise, no, I cannot. But we love our friends in Skaneateles, and we were able to talk to Francine and John, who are two district leaders, district and school leader in Skaneateles, and all the exciting things that are happening in the district with their adoption of Wit Wisdom. So we're excited to hear what is actually happening in some classrooms. So welcome, Seth and Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
And Seth and Kelly are sitting in the same room. So we get, this is very unheard of for usually everybody's in separate spaces. So you have a huge benefit here to be in the same space. So welcome. And you're in a closet, right? With books are behind you. It's very appropriate for a literacy podcast.
Well,
setting.
It's
perfect.
It's our green screen Wit and Wisdom book room, so we're very excited.
But we're talking all about their collaboration today and how they work together. Perfect. So it is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So Kelly, do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. My name's Kelly Gunderson. I'm actually the middle school librarian. I've been here for 5 years. I've been working as a librarian for over 14 years. So I was happy to be a part of the adoption of Wit and Wisdom for our middle school program 2 years ago.
And Seth?
Hi, my name is Seth Benjamin, and I am the 6th grade language arts teacher here at the middle school in Skaneateles. I have taught here for 20 years. Most of the time was in 5th grade. However, the last 5 have been up here in 6th grade in the middle school.
Awesome. 6th grade is my absolute favorite year.
Fifth grade is mine. So see there.
There
Seth,
you go.
You're perfect.
That's what Kelly tells me every day.
Totally. we could tell by how you were setting up for this podcast. Kelly is just honoring you every single day.
Oh, yes. Holding his hand, honoring, however you want to put it.
Well, we would love for you both to just share your experiences with implementation so far of the curricula, and then we can dive deeper because I think what makes you both really special is your collaboration as a librarian and as a classroom teacher. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that after you kind of frame for us what your experiences have been so far.
Okay, I'll let Seth start the classroom.
Sure. One of the things here in our 2nd year that definitely was an expectation I had going into using Wit and Wisdom, and it has come true, is the ability of all of our students to have access to the high-level complex texts and be successful. And I'll admit, when we first started looking at Wit and Wisdom, you have those questions: is can all students be successful and grow as readers and writers with high level text? And the answer is yes. And with the right supports and collaborating with Kelly, and really as a building as a whole, we have seen Wit and Wisdom take all our readers. The struggling readers are becoming successful and confident readers. Our high level readers have taken off, and it's really a building wide experience that we've seen. Our kids just love reading and want more to read. And I know Kelly will talk about the increase in books that have been going out of the library and how we've really made the entire Wit and Wisdom program a part of what we do, not just in language arts classrooms, but social studies and science classrooms. And the kids are talking about what they're learning in our modules in those classrooms. And that's the greatest thing, is when you hear them going down the hallway, not in class, and they're talking about the book we're reading. That to me is just is what I, as a teacher, love. And so I've been excited and can't wait to see where we're only in year 2, where we're going to go.
Seth, I love that. That was always my favorite part as a teacher too. When they would leave, I have a really fond memory of students reading "Shipwreck at the Bottom of the World" and leaving my trailer, for lack of a better word, and going out to have a bathroom break in the main building, and they were all just so excited to talk about it, and that is like just a hallmark moment, heading to the bathroom talking about a book.
Well, it reminds me of like when your mom asks you, what did you do in school today? But like so often you were just like, I don't know. Like, I don't have anything to tell you. Yeah. It was a boring day, but like these kids have things to talk about.
Yeah. And I, go back to one of our first, in the beginning of the year with module 1 with Out of the Dust and to see the parts of that book and hear the tough parts, and the kids really their emotions. And we had kids who were in tears crying, and the rest of the class talking with them and through that and really coming to that understanding that that's the power of a good book, is it brings out these emotions, and to see that with our kids is just such a great thing.
And Seth creates such an environment that they're able to really talk about it. And like he's so nurturing and welcome that he allows this conversation to, go into the direction where sometimes they need to talk about their feelings and emotions. So I think that's great too.
Yeah, that book in particular, we won't have any spoilers, but man, it made me cry.
Yeah. I'm curious how, Kelly, if you're seeing this happening in the classroom, what are you doing during library time to complement that or to support what Seth is doing, in the library?
It started actually right before we adopted the program. Francine came to me and asked me to help with some of the core texts to get them labeled and into the classrooms and figure out a system. So we did that through our library system to make sure that it was they were checked out, just like some of our other books. But then while we were talking, we started talking about the audio versions, and then we also started talking about the volumes of reading and how we can get those copies into the library and make them readily available. So that actually started really early on. And then I had a 6th grader at the time who was reading the stories, and
that's so fun.
Went along with them, and I'm like, oh my God, you're going to love these books. They're wonderful. And that the books that are selected like for the content, but it's also the language and the complexity of some of these stories. They, like Seth had said, they do talk about emotions that are raw, and the kids really can feel for those students who are in these stories that they can relate to. So it was a great opportunity for me to have some, I kind of forcefully pushed myself into the classrooms, but they were really accepting. And so in 6th grade, I was able to create some posters, some visual posters that I hung up in the classroom that had all of those volume of reading texts. So then we started talking about like some extra projects because of COVID and everything that was going on. Well, how do you do the speaking and listening portion when the kids aren't really able to kind of get into small groups and collaborate? So what could we do? So we have a wonderful program that we used called We Video. So I came up with some rubrics that I took the speaking and listening rubrics that you guys include in the manuals from the back, and I incorporated We Video so that they could use a green screen and they could talk and they could speak, and the kids actually would listen and critique some of these volume of readings that they were
that's so cool.
Yes, shown.
Yeah.
Exposed to.
Now, would they stand right behind where Seth is now with the green screen and do the wee videos there?
This is one of the rooms.
That
yes,
is so
we were
neat.
able to do some things. Yes, with the books right in here with them. So
yeah, we have. It's. I mean, I think at first when we started looking at the Wit and Wisdom program, obviously we're focused on the core texts and the lessons and building that. But that volume of reading is so powerful, and the kids want more, whether we're in module 1 and they're reading Bud Not Buddy and Out of the Dust, and then they're now picking up some of the text there, Richard Pack, A Long Way from Chicago, and they're making those connections in the Great Depression, and they're creating now short little book talks on A Long Way from Chicago with the World's Fair in the back and in the countryside with Grandma Dowdell. But then they're making connections of the depression in those books to how it was seen with Bud in Bud Not Buddy. And they want more. And we move into module 2, A Hero's Journey, which obviously is for 6th graders is one that they absolutely love. Really cool. And they're picking up the Hunger Games and Harry Potter. And well, our hero did this in this stage and the call to adventure was here. And they're using those terms. And
it's funny because at the beginning, they really didn't understand the terms. And I introduced the Wii video and they were like, we're not really sure what you're talking about. And I said, but you will. I promise. I know these terms are difficult to understand at first, but a few weeks later, they're coming into the library and they're like, oh my gosh, I realize what you're talking about. The hero of the story and like the shadow. Did you know the shadow is, this and that? And they will use the terms and the vocab
that's so cool.
We weren't really sure that they were going to be able to like really pick up and discuss and notice, but they really noticed it in all of the books that they've read in the past and were able to bring that discussion.
So they're leaving they're leaving our classroom and they know they can go to the library and find books that are connected to what we're doing and they're interested and they're motivated and we're seeing them check out more books and they want more and they want to learn more and continue to build their knowledge about that module we're in. And even now we're in module 3 finishing up Blood on the River and they're not only want from this module, but they're going back. You know what? I never got to read one of those books in module 1 about the Great Depression. And it's amazing to hear and see them. And it's possible because of the connection we have here with the library and the communication we have. We need these books and have them available for the students is such an important part.
And they come to me and they're so funny because they do independently read quite often. And they're like, Mrs. Gunderson, do you know that Miss Elise Carbone has Poison on the Colony or Poison in the Colony is the book. And we don't have it in the library. Can you order it? So of course I'm like on Amazon, like ordering a couple copies. And they're like, wait, get more than one though, because I want to partner with someone else so we can talk about it and have like some discussion. And so that's what I just ordered and made sure to have that in. And I'm like, okay, now my job is to go back and figure out whether or not we have the text for each of these authors that continue with some of the stories that they've put out after they've read it, and we're waiting for Sanjay Patel to do another Ramayana type story because the kids love that one. So,
oh my gosh, I love it. I feel like I like in my brain, I'm like, you should have a Win Wisdom book club, like a little like volume of reading book club for the kids. It's so fun.
I do get extra credit on their projects if they do a volume of reading text.
Oh, cool.
And so that's like also an incentive. So most of them are like, we want to do an extra credit. And I'm like, I don't have enough copies. So I have to like get on and get more copies.
That's
so
such a good problem.
Yeah, it is a huge problem that I have. That's a great problem to have. So at the same time.
It's so funny. Kelly, you're reminding me of here in Baltimore, we did some professional development with our school librarians and our public librarians. And it was right when we started with Wit and Wisdom, and we were just telling them about like the knowledge building and, how we saw like, it was really just like we think there could be a connection with the library here because of this knowledge building. It gives like such a place for the librarian to bring in more knowledge. And our librarians were they were like, yes, like, thank goodness, like, we're not teaching just like main idea anymore because I didn't know what to do with, like, I can't help with that, but I can help when it's like the Great Depression and I can order more books about that and help, recommend books with the same author and things like that, where it just like, it just was a totally different feel for the librarians. And it sounds like you are in a similar place as well.
Thank you. I try, and that's what I try to stay as current as possible. And especially with when they're excited, how can you not be excited back? So when they're excited to read something, you're like, okay, I want to push that excitement to the next level and make sure that they have those books in their hands that they're looking for. If I have to do, go to the public library as fast as possible, can I get this book and this book and this book? So I'll do it for them just to get those books right away so that they don't get turned off from reading. I want to keep that love of reading going.
And it's really more than finding books, though, that Kelly does. And a perfect example, obviously that's a big part of it, but in keeping the books in the kids' hands. But, I'm thinking we're in module 3 right now, narrating the unknown. And as part of that module at the end of Blood on the River, we began a focusing question task and a module where they're doing a mini research project. And they're taking a related topic from Blood on the River. They're skimming the afterword, brainstorming Maybe they want to find out more about John Rolfe or Thomas Gates' shipwreck on Bermuda. Those items that were those historical events that were briefly mentioned. And we do a mini research project on that. And one of the ways we've connected with Kelly in the library is her expertise in research and finding credible and reliable sources. I'll admit, I can teach that lesson, but that's her area of expertise.
Yeah,
and so she just did an entire lesson with our students. And as they're working now on these projects currently, I'm seeing them evaluate websites, sources. Is it credible? Is it reliable? And focusing their question. I have to thank Kelly for her willingness to participate with us in this mini project.
Mm-hmm. And again, I have to thank our admin because they allow me to have a flex schedule. So because of that flex schedule, I'm able to partner with any of the classroom teachers whenever they do a project and delve deeper into these skills. So I can take the literacy skills and my library skills and put them together, and we can critique search engines and we can find things, is it a reliable source? Is there primary resources? How do you judge a search engine? Like, how do you cite? You don't cite a search engine, you cite the source that it comes from. So, there's so much conversation that we're able to have and tie into it. But we are allowed the time. So that's been a wonderful thing to have, is that time to work together and plan those things.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point too. The collaboration is not just in the books, right? I mean, that's an obvious one, a very good starting point. But I think your point, Seth, about Kelly jumping in her area of expertise in an area that she probably has more training on than you. And I'm thinking the same for me, right? If I were paired with a librarian, I would really lean on them for certain components of that. It just not only makes sense, but it also, is allowing the expert to come and help where it needs to be helped, So that's such a good point. I love that. I'm wondering if, Melissa, I'm going to pull you because you always do this. Can we kind of, not always, but you do a great job of doing this. Can we really quickly define, I want to circle back to volume of reading. Can we just define it for those who are listening who may be like, what is a volume of reading? I actually found David Lieben's blog on he did a literacy skills blog about volume of reading. And it says, how do we decide what's enough to constitute a volume? And he writes, the answer to this has to do with the purpose for increasing students' reading volume. The purpose of increasing students' volume of reading is to maximize the growth of vocabulary and knowledge. So I'm wondering, Seth and Kelly, if you might be able to shed some light and give a specific, some more specific examples, right? Now that if folks listening didn't have that reference, now that they have that understanding of volume of reading, would you like to choose a core text and then walk us through a couple sample volume of reading, just titles and maybe talk?
Well, so module 2 comes right to my mind, which is the hero's journey in 6th grade. And so the 2 core texts in 6th grade are Ramayana Divine Loophole, Sanjay Patel, who is amazing. And then Gillian Cross's Odyssey, the Odyssey, and the classic. So the students, they're not familiar with the term monomyth. They know what a hero is. They've all seen Star Wars. They've all heard of and read, and a lot of them, and seen, or at least seen the movies Harry Potter. Yeah. And so what the volume of reading does for us is it gives other texts the students could choose to read or have read and bring their knowledge to our current module. So, for example, in Module 2, we have Rick Riordan's The Lightning Thief, that a majority of the students come and they are familiar with and they know, or even going back to The Wizard of Oz and Dorothy as the hero. So the volume of reading offers additional texts that we can then leverage to use for instruction. It adds on, it builds on to what we're doing with the core texts. And a lot of times it helps our students in their comprehension, their building of this knowledge. For example, in Ramayana, which they're not familiar with the story, our students, and
I was not familiar with it.
Yeah. They're able then, though, they know I can use then Harry Potter or I can use Katniss Everdeen and say, well, when Katniss was leaving her ordinary world, her home, to go on this journey. And then that helps them understand Odysseus leaving Ithaca in the Odyssey, or Rama leaving his kingdom after he's banished. So the volume of reading is we use it a lot as a way to help our comprehension, make those connections. And as I said, just leverage those texts for instruction. And it's what I would say is a real benefit.
Mm-hmm. And to jump on to that, we also time it so that it's being taught at the same time as social studies. So in 6th grade social studies, they do all the Romans, they do the gods, they do the Greeks, they do all these things. So it actually, builds that content knowledge. We taught it prior to them starting that unit in social studies. So then they were able to come to the table with a discussion in social studies that they weren't able to have in years past, because they didn't have that background knowledge unless they had read it or had a conversation at home or somewhere else. But actually every 6th grader, whether it be our ENL students, our special ed students, they all were able to come to the table with a different set of skills and a different set of vocab that they didn't have in prior years. So that was really nice to build that content knowledge for the social studies teacher. So
yeah, that's really cool. Laura and I were just talking about that with someone yesterday, where it's so neat when you see we always talk about we have to teach it at the exact same time, but it's actually almost better when you see it we taught it here, and then we see it, come up in social studies later, and they have something to bring to the table. It's really neat to see them be able to transfer and make those connections, and it's really neat.
I'm wondering about any struggling readers. We always get this question, and I feel like talking to teachers, we'd love to hear an honest answer. The volume of reading to a struggling reader, that feels overwhelming, right? So I'm curious how your readers who are struggling might approach the volume of reading. What does that look like for them? I bet that Kelly has some tricks up her sleeve. I can see it.
A lot of the books that we've purchased for the library through the volume of reading, I've made sure we have a program called Sora, which is just like Libby and all these other programs that the public libraries use. Because we have a audio version of all of the books, the kids are able to download it and listen to them. We're 1-to-1, so we have Chromebooks, so every student has a Chromebook. So the Sora is in their waffle on Chrome, and they're able to log in and listen to it and hear any of the books. And if there's a different book that we don't have, we purchase it and make sure that we have it, or we contact the public library and see if they have it available and they're able to download it through their library card. So we've partnered with the community in these types of programs. But also we make sure that, I think of the gods that we're going through, we do have a lot of graphic novels. Mm-hmm. So some of our students who are struggling readers, they do pick the graphic novels. And then we're fortunate where we have a 6th grade specialized teacher who's able to pull those students and work with them in their, what is it that they call that time that they use? So she's got that special time that
literacy lab.
Literacy lab.
Yeah.
So it's a literacy lab that she's able to pull them individually and work with them. And I've gone in and helped. That's where we've done the projects, the green screens, and they've had more one-on-one help. So that's been really nice as well.
That's so cool. I love that you're leveraging community connections. I can see Melissa's face. She's very excited about this as well.
We try as much as possible because, with resources these days, we try to use the funds that are out there. So we might have our own resources, but, public libraries have a lot of resources that they're able to use, especially when they're saying they're, in support with the schools. So yeah, they're able to support us.
We just discovered Libby too at home, not just, but recently. And we've been using it when we're in car rides. My daughter gets car sick if she reads. So we've been listening as together in the car. And it is honestly such a great way to bring everybody together. You're all invested in this story and you're listening to Hatchet, and now Hatchet is connected to our road trip to wherever. And it just helps you have conversation, but also build that knowledge that they need like, I just think it's a fantastic way for families to support the kiddos in school. You know, like I know families are constantly asking that, what can we do to help? And this is a really easy way to help.
I can't tell you how many kids we've had to go to Jamestown, Virginia in the last 2 years.
Really?
I just I kid you not, over our most recent February break, we had 2 students who are sending me pictures from Jamestown
so
and the Susan Constant.
That's cool.
And I'm like, this is fantastic. And well, we were headed down that way anyways. So the families are telling us so. And my son is like, we got to go. Like, perfect. So, but yeah, no, it's, and that's again with the community connections. And we were able to, speaking of the Jamestown, work out, and we're planning it now again for this year coming up, a virtual field trip that cool. Kelly has organized with the Jamestown Museum, and they do such a great job of coming on and everything we've read and written in bone, which is a very complex text. And again, the way it's broken down with the boxes and bullets, graphic organizer to identify main idea, key details, really supports all of our students with that text. The connections between the visuals, the illustrations, the captions, the diagrams take a lot of discussion. And so we're like, how can we continue to build knowledge, make our students engaged and motivated? And Kelly had that great idea to have this virtual field trip last year, our first year. And it was so impressive for the students to see actually what was going on at Jamestown, and hear about the actual archaeological and forensic anthropology that they've read about, now to see and hear about it. The archaeologist from Jamestown was so impressed and with their questions, and our students are asking some of our questions we pose to them in class for Socratic seminars.
It was kind of
They're
funny,
asking him if he thinks Jamestown was a success or a failure. And he said, that's a great question. And it was so just, cool. but that's, that connection that helps all our readers, obviously. And that's just one example of something we were able to do with them at Jamestown. And he actually was impressed as well. He's like, you're reading written in bone in 6th grade? So I use that with some of my graduate students are here in Jamestown.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because, yes, it was wonderful. He's his name's Mark Summers. He's actually the director for Jamestown Rediscovery. It's the name of the program that we reached out to. And yeah, they have these amazing programs. And it was really cool because they do the archaeological aspects and they tie that in. But what was neat was that they actually had an archaeological breakthrough while we were they were about to set out to the public that no one else knew. Well, I mean, obviously some people knew, but our kids were so and they were like, do you want to know a secret? Do you want to know something? We discovered something that we haven't told anybody. And it was about the starving time.
Well, so, there was a few things that when Alyssa Carbone was down, and he had met with her when she was researching to write Blood on the River. And he told our students at the time, I don't want to spoil anything here, but one of the characters early on in Jamestown, based on her research and the historical record, one of the younger boys was killed early on in the first 10 days in Jamestown, and they weren't sure who it was up until recently. The forensic anthropology and technology has changed some of the things they know, and our kids were just blown away hearing about this and reading about this, and it was amazing to see and them asking
about the graves and different things like that. And again, we don't want to give it away, but they had all of the key words and the terms down. So Mark was very impressed with them and like, wow, yeah, this is great. I can't believe you guys have these questions. So cool. It was really neat to have that opportunity. Again, when we were, in lockdown, it was like, how can we, how do you get these pictures into kids' heads? How do they see it? And so, these virtual field trips that came up were amazing. So now, again, we've reached out and they're going to be doing another archaeological one in the next coming weeks. So,
and we're excited. You mentioned earlier Shipwreck at the Bottom of the World. They just found the Endurance.
I know.
So we're already made a connection there. We have something planned coming up as well when we get into that.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Honestly, I could listen to you both talk about this all day. I'm like, oh. And you're giving me great ideas, even as a parent, you're giving me ideas like, oh, I didn't think about doing a virtual field trip or seeing what was available as a virtual field trip. So that's another really cool way to connect with families. And Melissa, I'm wondering if you have anything to add, because I know your work in Baltimore, you were so thoughtful about this. So I'm curious. I know that you shared it with me, but if you want to share it with Seth and Kelly, any other
really
things?
Putting me on the spot here, because I'm not sure where you're going with that.
I was in your Google Drive, like scouting around at the different. You did like a whole like community connection for each.
Oh, yeah. I do. Sorry. I was like, what?
I'm like, you gave me access to your Google Drive.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had similar ideas as you all have. I mean, you all had that benefit of, you're in a school, you're working together, you can make it happen. I was at the district level, so I was just trying to like do what I could, but I saw some things like, I was mostly working on 7th grade at the time. So I know it's not your thing, Seth, but that's where I started the work where
I'm all ears. Tell me.
Kelly's taking notes.
I don't know, Kelly, if it's anything that makes that would work for you, but I was just thinking like same thing. I was like, I just want to like make this more real for kids. Like even the Chaucer, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Canterbury Tales. Thank you. It seems like, why do we still read this book, And I just started looking around, and it happens that we're right near Johns Hopkins University. There happens to be a professor at Johns Hopkins who is all about Chaucer. Like, how that, like, that's his thing. And I was like, well, maybe I'll go talk to this guy, right? And I did, and I did a video with him, and it was so cool to hear him talk about like, why is this still relevant today? Why are the Canterbury Tales still relevant? And he did a whole video with me about like, why would kids be interested in the Canterbury Tales? And it was just neat to do that, and it was actually really helpful for teachers. I don't even know
that's what I was thinking.
I don't even know that it went to the student level, but for teachers to hear, because not all of our teachers necessarily know the Canterbury Tales or know a lot about it. It was really fun. So yeah.
Kelly, I can see you. Are you going to go get a video camera now and like go to the community?
I know. I kind of feel the same way. Just with the background, like you said, not everyone's out there able to do background research and do that sort of stuff. But like, I've got Claudette Colvin up behind me, and I'm not sure if you saw in the news, but with 8th grade, they were reading it at the same time that she was just pardoned. And there was a whole news article, and it was out everywhere. And so I forwarded it on to the 8th grade teachers, and they were like, then the social studies teachers as well, just to let them know this was happening if they hadn't been able to. Read the news as much as they had been, with everything else going on in the world. It's difficult to sort of filter those things, but I was able to do that. And they were very excited to share that with students because, it's happening right now. It's relevant, it's pertinent, and it's the story that they were reading. So, you can't plan those things. The same thing with the Endurance being found. They're about to read the book, and it sunk and it was never to be found again. Yet, wait a minute, it just did. It got... it was located.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things in the last 2 years that I've seen here. The kids are no longer leaving English class and it's done for the day. It is with us throughout the day, all classes, in the hallways, in the lunchroom. We hear them talking about these experiences, and it's truly, something special. I think seeing our kids love what they're doing, what they're reading, what they're discussing. And, that's been a big change the last 2 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. Going home and talking about it with their grandparents.
Yeah.
Were you alive to their grandparents? Like, did this happen to you? Some of these questions and we're getting emails from families like thanking us for allowing their children to like the opportunity to have these discussions and be able to go home and, want to know more about information that they, probably wouldn't have asked if they didn't have that prior knowledge.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to our volume of reading conversation for like the fourth time now, but it's just stuck with me thinking about I was thinking about what I used to do before a knowledge building curriculum. And I wanted my kids to read more, and it was good intentions, right? I was just like, let's get books in your hands. And my kids that love to read loved it. My kids that didn't love to read, it was a struggle. And like sometimes I found like a good book that like they were like, okay, I can do this. But a lot of the times it was like, I'm going to get a book and pretend to read this because you're telling me it's time to read a book. And it just feels so different the way you all talked about it, right? Like that, you know, they're reading it with more of a purpose. They can have conversations with you. They can make these connections. And I really wasn't able to do that when they're all picking books that they just want to pick. I'm just wondering if you all saw a difference there too.
I do believe that because they have this project that Seth and has allowed me to create in their classroom, it's a 12-week project. They have 12 weeks to read one book. If they do extra, it's extra credit. And then they get to create a video. And that whole technology aspect of it, where there's a rubric involved. They have to answer, the stages, of whether or not, I'm trying to think of the Odyssey, A Hero's Journey. They had Vogler stages, or they had the ability to choose whether to define who was the character archetypes. Yeah. And so when they went into it that way, they came in, they had to read the book. They had to know these things. I mean, you can't make it up if you don't read it. So it was really neat to have that conversation. Okay, so who do you think was, the shadow in the story? And we could come into, okay, how do we write about them? What did they do? And then how would you film it? What would you put in the background if we use a green screen? What type of picture do you have in your head? So all of these, reading traits that you kind of forget to talk about a little bit once you leave elementary school, we're able to pull back in here in middle school and have conversations and, pushing that out there to those struggling readers and being able to come into the library and work one-on-one with possibly me or another person in here that's able to help them, or another student, and having the connection with another student. They've already finished. They know what they're doing. Can you talk to them about, this or that, and help them figure out who it is in their story or what they want to achieve? It's been a great, I think, growing experience for the students as well.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, actually in the very beginning of the podcast, that when students have the right supports and collaboration, and what you're sharing right now just speaks to all of that. Like, I feel like you are Seth is the main support, right? Because he's in the classroom, but you're equally as important of a support and another sturdy person for them to go to say, hey, I need help. I want to learn more. How can I do this? So I see both of you as like having that equal weight of importance of being a support for students, and what a benefit. I think that that's not typically how, schools are accessing their librarians. So I'm so proud of both of you for this collaboration and partnership, and your students are benefiting so much. It's like so nice talking with you.
My students just come up and ask, "Can I go see Mrs. Gunderson? I have a question." And
we like her.
Go right ahead.
No,
go right ahead.
They're very well trained.
Whether it's about one of the books, a technology question, or they need a bleach stick for spilling something on them, go see Mrs. Gunderson.
That's so cool, though, because I think sometimes. I just look at myself. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, sorry, Melissa. I do. I just look at myself as a reference, like a resource. Like, I'm here. It's just like you would go to a book for a resource, and I'm actually able to do all of these things. I know I have the background in the history. I've been in the classroom. I left the classroom and came into the library for this reason and this purpose. So I feel that, more librarians should be used as a resource and not just, a scheduled block of time. So that's kind of been nice.
And it's been a buy-in by our whole middle school too, because I had, our 8th grade social studies teacher came to me last year and wanted to know more about what are we doing in the Great Depression. He's hearing some kids talk about one of his duties as lunch supervisor for the 6th graders. He's hearing, and he's like, well, wait a second. And so he's like, oh, that's fantastic. I can build on this. I can do that. Our 7th grade social studies teacher teaches the early American history. And she's saying, oh, you're reading Blood on the River? You're talking about James? Yeah. And now she's added into what she's done. So it's been the entire school, I think, really buying into this idea that literacy is across all subjects, obviously, and all areas, and making the connections with the students, even if they're a science teacher, but they're asking about forensic anthropology and written and bones. But it's been really everybody who's made this a special place, but adoption of the program, but why we're seeing our kids being so successful, I think, as well.
So cool. I was just going to say earlier, I feel like a lot of places I've worked, the librarian was underutilized, or like always felt like, hey, I'm here. Like, how can I help you? I'm trying to find a way to help. And it's just really nice to hear how robust your support is, Kelly. But it's not even just support. It's like part of the fabric of the actual instruction, which is really cool.
Yeah. I love that you fake punched each other too. Good job.
Yeah.
Was it fake? Ouch.
I didn't hear anything on the microphone, and you have a pretty solid microphone there.
That's right.
Oh. Well, I feel like we're maybe heading to, unless Melissa, you have anything else you'd like to ask? And Seth and Kelly, I want to open it up to you. Do you have anything else you'd like to share other than, before we get to our advice for our listeners?
No, I think that you guys have covered it. It's been really great to have the acceptance, like you said, of the school to be able to put this, together, where we've been able to work together and collaborate. They're able to support us in so many ways. So a lot of it has been great. And again, a lot of it has to do with Seth and his classroom and the way that he teaches and the environment that he sets up. So it's been a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. I'm actually wondering if you might be able, and we wouldn't post publicly, but would you just send us a couple of the kids' videos?
Absolutely.
That would be so fun.
It would be fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
They would all volunteer. We don't know how to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really good ones. Yeah.
Choose me.
If you have a drive, you can just give us access. We'll watch them all. We will. Melissa and I will spend some time watching them all. That is so fun. What can you tell us? Is it an app? What is the name again?
Yes, We Video. Actually, it's a program itself, and you log in. We do it through our Google login.
Okay.
It is a paid site, though.
So I can link it, though, in show notes. So if people want to go, okay, I'll do that. Cool. I think it's time. Melissa.
Time for some advice? Yeah.
Thank you.
So we always end with asking you all to give our listeners some advice. So if Seth, you might have some advice for any classroom teachers implementing Wit and Wisdom, and Kelly, any librarians that are in schools who are implementing, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. I guess my biggest thing is just I'm not an expert in everything, and I admitting I don't know everything, and using the resources that are here in our building has helped my instruction. Going, whether it's Kelly or whether it's a social studies teacher, and I'm teaching about Jamestown, and I'm not really sure about that history, so I'm going to go and talk to them. So my biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to talk to the experts, or seek out people that are experts in the area, more knowledgeable. That just helps my instruction and obviously the benefit of the students. So that would be my advice.
And mine would definitely be for any librarian out there, just to, make yourself available, be that resource, be the reference, try and jump on to any teacher who is willing to accept help, and other teachers will see that and then start seeking you out. So, just knowledge about what you're teaching, and that's really it.
So great. So exciting to hear everything that you all are doing. It's really fun for us to hear what's actually happening in schools and classrooms. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for being here today. We appreciate you so much, and for all that you do every day.
Absolutely.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening, literacy lovers. We release a new podcast episode every Friday and share more resources in a newsletter on Tuesday. Sign up for our newsletter at literacypodcast.com. Each week, you'll receive important information, resources, and connected content.
We're excited to create a space for community discussion about our podcast. We want to connect with our listeners and support you in answering your questions. But we also realize there are a lot of other educators out there who have great advice and experience too. Let's keep learning together in our Melissa and Lori Love Literacy Podcast Facebook group, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
If the content in this episode helped you, share with a fellow educator and teacher friend. Our literacy lover community welcomes educators at every stage of their learning journey. We're so glad you're here to learn with us.